Welcome, everybody. My name's Marilee Burnett, and I am back again with an astro lesson for the week of June 3rd, 2024, where we will have an amazing new moon in Gemini. So stay tuned because I'll give you a brief prediction for each and every one of the signs. And if you want to know more, make sure you subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button now so that you get notifications every time I post new content, like the tarot card reading that is already out there for all of the signs for the week ahead. I have just a couple of slots left for anybody that wants to try to do a new moon reading, and I do have special pricing for that. So go to my website, marileeburnett.com, and check out the special offers link. Now, this is a really amazing, beautiful week ahead, but change is necessary. So we'll be talking through that. If you've been joining me, you know that I use the Astro Gold software, and I will do the breakdown by day so that we can get a good feel for what to expect. Now, remember, you want to do things in alignment with this energy in order to help manifest whatever it is that you are working on. Don't just sit back and wait for things to show up. All right. So with that, let us go ahead and get started talking about Monday. And as you'll see on Monday, we have the Sun conjunct to Venus in the sign of Gemini. And that means that Venus is going through her rebirthing process. Every time one of the planets meets with the Sun, it is going through the fire, right? It's a cleansing fire. And once the planet moves past the Sun, then it has a fresh start and a fresh new cycle. It's every 4 years that Venus and the Sun meet up like this in the sign of Gemini. So you can look back on 2020, for example, to see what was showing up for you at that time. And those 4 years are coming to a close, and then a new 4-year cycle will begin. So what did you learn about your values and the things that you love, maybe love itself, over the last 4 years? And are there lessons learned that you don't want to repeat? Or are there lessons learned that you want to just now take to the next level? Of course, everybody has their own story. Now, the Sun is our ego self, and it is our success. And when it combines with Venus, you can be seeing financial success. If you're a writer or a teacher, for instance, we may see a woman in the news this week that is doing something that would maybe be reviving her career, her health, her point of view. So obviously we'll have to wait and see how that shows up. The other thing that we see here is that the nodes are being engaged. So of course the nodes are our fated lessons. The North Node in Aries is making a sextile or 60-degree angle to this Venus-Sun conjunction. And that means there's help from the fates on the path that you're meant to take, right? So the North Node is where we're supposed to be heading in this lifetime. And we still also get help from the past because the South Node in Libra is also speaking in harmony. It's a trine. Trine is, again, helpful energy, but you have to apply it. So this would say to me, there's lessons from the past. There might be relationships from the past that have something to do with helping you on this new future, on this next 4-year endeavor for yourself. So it's a really fabulous day to start the week out with. And you'll also see that we've got Mercury at home in the sign of Gemini, joining with Jupiter and Venus and the Sun. So we have a stellium. We have a ton of Gemini energy. And Gemini rules communication. It rules your community. It can be ruling transportation. It's learning and knowledge. It's the mind. It can be expanding your mind. There's all kinds of opportunities. but it's definitely about creating movement. And so that is what we'll be focusing on this week, is making big moves. Where are there opportunities for you to see big moves possible? Like that noisy phone that I just set off instead of hitting the mute button. There's something that may be getting your attention this week. All right, so that is how we start off on Monday. And then as we transition into Tuesday, you're going to see that Jupiter energy is speaking exactly with Mercury. So Mercury and Jupiter, when they combine, it's the full picture of some topic in your chart and in your life, and of course for the collective. When you think about Mercury rules the lower mind and Jupiter is the higher mind, then they're speaking together. We get to see the full picture of something. Now, this could be peace, right? Two sides coming together, having peace talks. Jupiter is godlike, right? It is very spiritual, peaceful energy, and something about conversation needs to happen for this energy to be active. Now, these planets have also been speaking with Pluto, that is retrograde in the sign of Aquarius still, and this applies as a trine. So it is helpful energy to you as long as you take advantage of it, as long as you apply yourself. And Jupiter also expands things, right? So Jupiter is going to expand the conversations, and Jupiter is going to expand the ability to transform. And Pluto, of course, is death and transformation. So it's also power. It can be fear. It depends on how you and we as a collective tap into these energies, right? Because Jupiter makes Pluto bigger. It strengthens Pluto. It also brings people together in a big way with that Aquarian energy. It can create innovation in a big way. These are very positive energies. We have a lot of blue lines as you're looking at the chart, and blue means positive and supportive. But Pluto is a very psychological planet as well, right? It works beneath the surface, Pluto, ruler of the underworld. So it can bring things up to the surface in a big way. Now, we've been under this influence since last week, so it's not a surprise we're seeing the things that we're seeing in the media in particular. This is an air sign, right? Just like Gemini is an air sign, and air signs are about information and communication. There could be some kind of a scientific discovery with that Aquarian energy that comes up now. So again, really big positive energy, but it's also the energy of making big changes. So let's move on. No big activations on Wednesday. We just still see the conversation going on between Jupiter and Pluto. And now we see the moon has begun its entrance into Gemini, and it stops before it's meeting up with the sun and Venus to have this conversation with Mercury and Jupiter. And so this could be bringing to your attention something intuitively, right? Paying attention to your intuition, and then suddenly you have a thought or a download that might surprise you. And it might be the one that creates a whole lot of change in your life that you weren't necessarily expecting. So, what will that be for you? Well, that's up to you. You have to set your intentions for it as well. Now, as we move though into Thursday, this is the big activity of the week. This is having our new moon that will be exactly conjunct with Venus and the sun. It happens at 16 degrees of the sign, and that energy, which I think is actually at 17 degrees, I might have fibbed a minute. So let me take this back here and show you the exact conjunction. All right. I didn't exactly fib. It does happen at 16 degrees. Okay, good. So as we have all of these three things speaking together, and still having Jupiter and Mercury, which is very strong in its home sign of Gemini. The information that is flowing to us at this time might just be overwhelming. There's going to be so much coming up. But what is keeping it in check, instead of information just running away from us, is the square that these planets are all making over here to Saturn in Pisces. Now, Saturn brings restriction, it brings structure, it brings stability. It can be older generations that are providing some influence, but the square means there's a change. So maybe we're ready to move away from some old energy in order to allow this new beginning to come in, right? Gemini is change. It's light and dark. It is something where we are seeing both sides and we make a choice. And that choice may be to move away from this older person. And they may be, when you think about the sign of Pisces, somebody who's an artist, somebody who's a spiritual leader. Of course, Saturn is older men in government. Piscean energy is a water sign. It could be somebody overseas. Whatever this is for you, you'll notice it in a strong way because Saturn's big energy, right? So when Saturn says you need to make a change, a square means we got to change direction, you best listen. But it's a great time, of course, to set new intentions for those new beginnings with Venus involved, right? Venus, love and beauty and money. We may see even bigger opportunities as far as finances go. Maybe watch the bank stocks this week with the help of this energy. Things involving beauty. You might be considering a beauty makeover. I would be really careful though with the Saturn, because Saturn is going to say only do things that are required. It shouldn't be something that you do just because it's fun. But Venus is a benefic planet, so is Jupiter, right? So together they're in the same sign, and this is blessing this energy area in your chart. Now, the last time we had Venus, as I mentioned, was 2020, and then 2016 and 2012. I mean, you can go back and look. If you study more about the planet Venus, you know that her movement through all of the signs and the cycles creates a 5-pointed flower if you look at the pattern that's created. So there's always something beautiful being born and being created at the time that Venus and the Sun meet up in a new sign. So it is definitely an opportunity for you to bring your creative gifts to the surface and to life. Now, those are the only things that are impacting this new moon. And as I mentioned on Monday, still have the nodes are sitting at 13 degrees. So they still have a positive influence over the sun and moon as they meet up. And of course, Venus, there's still the influence there. And of course, the nodes are very karmic points. So fate steps in and can mix things up very unexpectedly at this time. So what's the prediction for your sign? I'm going to run through this real briefly for each of the signs. Now, the house I choose is based on whole sign houses, which I don't normally use, but it's the only way to come up with a general prediction for each and every sign. But to know for sure, of course, you need to know your chart. You can make a free one at any time and at any of the software websites out there. You just need your birthplace, time, and date, of course. And then you'll know your rising sign, like this chart in front of us would look like a Gemini rising. And then the houses 1 through 12 get created based off of where the sun was rising in the sky at the moment that you were born. So let's take a quick rundown through each sign. Again, watch for your sun, moon, and rising. You will find typically that the rising sign is the one that you notice most in your day-to-day life. The moon can bring emotional experiences, and the sun is your ego self. So let's break it down, starting with Aries. So Aries, Gemini for you is your third house. So if you look at this chart, you see Aries out here. The ram is the symbol, the zodiac symbol for Aries. And if you were to count it, you'd say this is house 1, Taurus is house 2, and Gemini is house 3. So that's how we look at this and determine that the new moon for Aries happens in its third house. And the third house is all about communication and your intellect. It's all the things that we've been talking about as far as this Gemini energy goes. So you're setting new intentions for things involving your third house. This can also be siblings. It could be extended family members. Maybe this is you wanting to sign up to take some kind of course of study. Maybe you're a beauty expert, or maybe you want to go to beauty school, right? Venus is beauty, and Gemini could be you taking a class like that. Maybe you're opening up a new salon, right? So wherever your intentions are, Aries, you will, of course, know them and want to set them to match this third house energy along with the new moon conjunct to Venus. All right, Taurus, this happens in your second house, and the second house is all about the money that you make. Well, Taurus, good news is for you, you rule the second house. You're all about this energy. Venus, of course, rules Taurus. So this is a really wonderful opportunity for you to do something related to the money you make. So this is an opportunity for a new career. It could be a raise that you would receive, because of course Venus has that money influence over you. Taurus loves the money. This could be, again, things to do with your beauty, things to do with buying beautiful things. So where do you want your intentions to be set? And if you're looking to improve your finances, this is going to be the one that you really want to focus in setting your intentions so that you're open to that opportunity.
Something went wrong.
Now, when we look at the sign of Gemini, of course, this is happening in your sign. So this is all about you. This can be a beauty makeover with Venus in your first house. This can be people seeing your loving nature. This could be people seeing the very material side of you. You might be a material girl in a material world during this time frame. But anytime you have something that happens in your first house, this is a very personal goal. The first house is about how we present ourselves to other people. It's how they see us physically. It can be how they actually see our face. So where are you wanting big changes? Because that Saturn energy that's squaring you is saying, hey, it's all fun and games, but there's something I need you to be taken a little bit more seriously. And maybe it's how you speak up for yourself. And there's something about the way you speak that you need to change. And maybe you're going to become a bigger authority figure than you currently are. All right. I am not going very quickly through all these, so I'm sorry if this is going to run a little long. Cancer, this happens in your 12th house. So whenever you have a 12th house new moon, this is a time to clean out the cobwebs in your subconscious mind so that, again, for instance, if you beat yourself up all the time about your body image, it's time for you to break free from that type of thinking, because the things that we say to ourselves, words are magic, and we create whatever we think, whatever we speak. So it would be a really good time, especially with that square to that Saturn energy in a water sign that is just like you, to break yourself free of whatever you're doing in your subconscious mind that is detracting from your own beauty, right? This is the time to stop picking on yourself. So knock it off, Cancers. All right, Leo, this happens in your 11th house. So it's time to make new friends, to join with social gatherings. You know, Venus is a feminine energy, so it's time to connect with other people with the same feminine energy as you. And maybe you're going to join a group where you're doing something for a cause. Maybe you're taking a class with a group of women. Maybe you're signing up for some sip and paint, right? Being artistic and creative. So do something fun, Leo. Set your intentions more fun with others and watch what shows up for you. Now, Virgos, this happens in your 10th house. So this is about your career. It's about your public image and your reputation. So there is an opportunity for a new career or a new level in your current career to show up. But it would say that there's something you got to make a big change with that square to Saturn. So if you're a spiritual worker, for instance, that square to Saturn would say, take what you're doing now and you got to do it differently. And Saturn's going to say, and here's the plan. Saturn might send you a mentor to help you change what you're currently doing so that you have a bigger reach, for instance. And working with women, right? With that Venus energy, maybe your niche market needs to be about teaching women something specific. Maybe you're creating a course or creating a book. But something you're doing isn't going to look the same going forward. And maybe that's because you've looked at what you did in 2020 and now you realize you want to do something different. Libras, this happens in your 9th house. So these are new beginnings that involve higher learning, such as like an MBA, could be philosophy. It, of course, is Jupiterian. It's anything that invites big major growth into your life at this time. And it could even be something to do with foreign people, foreign places. Taking a big trip, moving overseas would even be a possibility for you. Scorpio, 8th house. Of course, you are the 8th house, and that is the house of death and transformation and rebirth. It's power. It is our intimate relationships. It's sex. It's sexuality. So there is a huge change available to you. This also is the house that rules the money that we get from other people. So there could be a new opportunity for you to maybe have some kind of a side gig. If it's not, directly the income you make in the 2nd house, this is money that we get from loans, could be a payout from an investment, could be tax return, could be taxes you have to pay, right? So 8th house is all about changing your perspective about money too. So there is a huge opportunity available to you. And maybe it's because of the square to Saturn that you got to look at your budget and make a change there. All right. Sagittarius, this is happening in your 7th house, which involves your marriage or your marriage partners or your business and business partners. So that square to Saturn says something about your marriage is needing to go through a change. Maybe there is something that you need to start taking more seriously with Saturn as far as your partners go. And maybe you've been going it alone and now it is time for you to have a business partner. But it's definitely creating new relationships or that change in the current relationship because of that square to Saturn. Now, if you're hoping to meet the one, well, this might be the time, and you'd have the help of Venus and love in your 7th house, or getting the one to ask and pop the question. All right. Kind of sounds exciting for you, Sagittarius. Capricorn, this happens in your 6th house. Now, this is things that rule over your health, your day-to-day routines. It's often the work we do, because obviously if we're aligned with the energy in our 6th house, we enjoy the work we do. So there can be a new opportunity for work. There can be a new pet. There can be a change to your pet because of that square to Saturn, or of course change to your health, and a change to the work you do. Doesn't have to be negative change, but Saturn says there's something that you're doing in your day-to-day life that you need to break free from and start over. So you're going to see things look really differently over the next 4 years, according to this new moon. Aquarius, this happens in your 5th house. So this is the house of romance. It's the house of the heart. It's the house that rules your children. It's fun. It's passion. It's hobbies. So Are you looking for romance? Well, then it sounds like you got to break the patterns of codependence from the past and stop choosing partners that need to be saved or fixed, because that's what that square to Saturn is suggesting, Aquarius. If you want love, you got to stop doing the things you've been doing, which are not helping you in this area. And then as a result, you're going to have the love that you want. And then last but not least, here we have Pisces. Pisces, this happens in your fourth house of home and family. So there can be a new beginning at home, but of course, Saturn's in your sign. So in order to have a new beginning, even when it is in regards to your family, right? There is a change that has to happen with Saturn in your first house and suggesting something about you needs to change. And that change influences this opportunity to start something new and fresh at home. Maybe it's working from home, for instance. But to do that, you would have to make a complete change in your career so people would see you differently than they have been seeing you. Of course, you got to tune in and listen to that intuition that Saturn can kind of tampen down a bit so that you don't get so dreamy, that you can actually tune in and listen and not be deceived, right? Because some of that Piscean energy due to Neptune can be a bit deceptive. Okay, so that was a semi-quick rundown. If you want to know more about the new moon, you can, of course, check out my new moon article. You can go out and watch the tarot cards. And, of course, make sure you're subscribed to my website and this YouTube channel so that you can hear my content on a daily basis as well, since I pull a cord every single day. Okay, then as we move into Saturday, I will move us here now. We are going to see that Venus has moved just ahead of the sun. It's going to take her until July before she's actually visible because she's so close to the sun. And so sometimes that means Venus things and issues can remain hidden a bit longer. But on this day, Venus is exactly square to Saturn. So whatever you were seeing at the new moon on Thursday, there is the opportunity to actually make the change. Now, it's always best to set your intentions with the new moon and then wait till the light shines on it again in a couple of days to actually do something about those intentions. So this is a day where you start to make the big changes because Venus squares exactly with Saturn, and the moon in its home sign of Cancer is exactly squaring with the nodes. So there is something big you need to change, and something that fate may be stepping in and helping you to make the big changes as well. And then as we progress into Sunday, we now see it's the sun. So the sun and Saturn, when they have those square topic conversations, can be two male energies that are having a discussion that is very uncomfortable because, of course, the sun wants its independence and Saturn wants to restrict that. And there can be words, right? This is in the sign of Gemini. So there is definitely the opportunity for some difficulty during this time. The other thing that we see happening, though, is Mercury is speaking in harmony with the nodes. So it would sound like the conflict that's created by the sun and Saturn is one that can be resolved through talking, right? Again, this goes back to my earlier conversation about, are there peace talks? Is there something where two sides can come together? And these conversations, again, they're fated because they're talking to the nodes and they're talking in harmony with the nodes. So it is the potential, right, for any conflict that you have for it to be resolved as long as you listen twice as much as you speak, which is why you have two ears and one mouth, in order to make the other person feel valued in whatever this disagreement may be. Now, we're also going to see that Mars has left its home sign of Aries. So you'll see it's still there on Saturday, and then on Sunday, it is now in the sign of Taurus. Now, Mars doesn't love being in the sign of Taurus because it's an earth sign, and it makes the energy of fire be a bit dampened, right? You can throw dirt on fire and calm it down. But you know what? Sometimes we need to slow down and dig into the earth and do some work. So there is work to be done. Whatever you've been working on for the last 6 weeks with Mars in Aries, now you're ready to do the work of Mars in Taurus over the next 6 weeks. Now, Mars comes back around about every 2 years. So again, you can go back and look at what was I doing in 2022. I'm done with that 2-year cycle. And what change am I going to want to make as a result of literally my results over the last 2 years? Am I seeing what I expected? Is there as much value in what I was doing as I expected, or do I need to make some kind of a change? So that is an amazing, exciting, opportunistic week that we aren't going to see for quite a while. So take advantage of it. We've got some really intense energy coming up, even beginning next Monday, because as Mars moves into the sign of Taurus, it is going to make a square to Pluto. So this is the energy where it can literally be explosive. But again, if you need to have a fire lit under your butt to get you moving out of someplace where you've been stuck, then this is the energy that can be helpful. But there are those, of course, who don't tune in a healthy way, and there can be arguing, there can be battles, there can be wars, there can be explosions, right? So just start to be really cautious. It won't be exact on Monday, but it will start to feel influential on Monday, and then Tuesday of next week is when that energy will be exact. And then we're also going to still continue next week to see Venus and the Sun marching closely together, because as I said, Venus takes time to completely finish her transformation, and until she gets clear of the Sun, she's still hidden. So again, more excitement to come next week. So again, be sure you like and save, make comments, let me know what else I can do in these videos that would be helpful to you, because I love to make changes that you find most beneficial. So love your feedback all the time. All right. So we will talk next week. I look forward to hearing how those new moon intentions go for you. I'm very curious for myself as well. So keep me posted, and I'll keep you posted if I see any big, amazing changes and how things are turning out for me as well. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care, everyone.